The downpour hadn't let up for hours. Fat raindrops slapped against the canopy above, turning fallen leaves into a slick, rust-colored carpet. Liam tugged his hood tighter, the cold sliding down the back of his neck like a warning. His boots squelched with every step as he led the group toward the cave mouth. A dozen strangers huddled together, eager for the tour, unaware of how unforgiving nature could be. Max walked just ahead, paws silent on the wet path, his sturdy frame soaked, but focused. This was supposed to be a simple close to the season. One last tour before winter settled in. Liam didn't know it yet, but nothing about today would be simple. As they crossed into the yawning cavern, Max froze, ears high, tail still. Liam noticed immediately. He stopped mid-sentence. "What is it, bud?" he whispered. Max didn't bark or growl. He just stared into the darkness, nose twitching at something unseen, something ancient. The tourists shuffled behind them, a few glancing nervously at their phones. The reception was long gone. Liam gave Max a gentle pat on the side, trying to soothe him, but Max didn't budge. Liam looked up into the darkness. Something about the air changed, thicker, older, as if the cave had suddenly taken a breath. He turned back to the group, masking his unease with the kind of smile he'd practiced 100 times. "Just Max doing his job," Liam said. "He's got better instincts than me, but we're all good." A few people chuckled, but the tension clung like fog. One woman gripped her partner's hand a little tighter. Inside, Liam's gut knotted. Max rarely got spooked, and never without a reason. He kept walking, forcing calm into his voice. The cave swallowed every word. The deeper they went, the more Liam felt it. The cave didn't just hold sound, it played with it. Every drip echoed like a footstep. Every distant groan of shifting rock felt personal, alive. Liam glanced at the walls. Streaks of minerals shimmered under his flashlight like veins. The cave pulsed with stillness. He paused again. Something scratched the back of his mind. Anne urged to turn around, but he didn't. He led on, Max's form a steady silhouette beside him. For Liam, silence had always been safe, predictable. He'd built a life in its quiet early mornings, lonely dinners, the kind of peace that comes from choosing your own company. Max had been his only real companion, loyal, unshakable, understanding in a way no human had ever been. He preferred it that way. No drama, no mess. Just him and Max, and the rock and root of these mountains, until now. Now, the silence felt like a trap tightening around him. It came like a growl from the earth's chest, a deep, guttural crack. Liam didn't have time to shout. The ground lurched. A thunderous rumble swallowed the air as the ceiling above them groaned. Boom. Stones cascaded like a waterfall of teeth. Screams filled the chamber. Someone fell. A flashlight smashed. "Get down," Liam yelled, shoving two tourists toward an alcove. Dust exploded around them. The walls shook violently. Max darted to Liam's side, barking, eyes wide. Then silence, not peaceful silence. The kind that presses on your chest. The kind that means something is missing. When the dust cleared, Liam turned to the passage they'd just walked through. It was gone, buried behind a mound of jagged stone. They were sealed in Max Windlow beside him. Liam reached for his radio, dead. His pulse roared in his ears. They weren't just trapped, they were cut off. The walls trembled again, not a tremor this time, but a jolt. A deep, violent groan echoed through the cavern as if the mountain itself had cried out in pain. Then it hit. A deafening roar surged from above. Liam turned instinctively, his arms outstretched to shield the closest tourist. But he was too far. Stone rained down like punishment. The ground cracked open. A wall of rock descended with a force that shook the marrow in his bones. Max. The sound of his own scream was swallowed by chaos. Dust blinded him. The weight of falling earth forced him to the ground. Rocks slammed beside him, sharp and final. Then silence, not peace, not calm. The kind of silence that follows destruction. He didn't know how long he lay there before he felt the warmth of fur against his side. Familiar, steady, real. Max, the world might have broken apart, but Max had stayed. Coughing, Liam pulled himself upright, each breath a desperate attempt to force dust-clogged air into his lungs. He blinked, eyes stinging, the dim cave light painting ghostly outlines through the haze. Max was there, his flank pressed against Liam's ribs, unmoving but alert. His head cocked, ears twitching, nostrils flaring, scanning without panic. "You okay, boy?" Liam wheezed. His voice sounded distant in his own ears. Max didn't whine. He just leaned in closer, the kind of silent reassurance only a dog can give. Around them, rubble towered where the passage once stood. Behind them, only blackness, the others gone. Liam swallowed. If anyone made it out, they were on the other side of that wall, and he was here, alone, with Max. Liam fumbled with shaking hands, pulling the radio from his vest. He pressed the call button. Nothing. Tried again. Static, then silence. The flashlight was next. A faint cone of light flickered to life. Not strong, but something. He scanned Max quickly. No visible injuries. His own knees throbbed. One arm scraped raw, but he was whole. He pointed the beam toward the rockfall. It was worse than he feared. A full collapse. No cracks. No gaps. Solid. "Damn it," he whispered. Max sat quietly beside him, eyes reflecting the dying light, calm in the middle of ruin. Liam looked down at his shaking hands. No signal, no exit. A battery that would last maybe an hour, and nobody even knew they were trapped. The air felt heavier already. Not imagination. Liam had spent years underground. He knew what stale air tasted like. He pushed gently against the wall of rock, testing for give. Nothing. It might as well have been a mountain. His breath grew louder in his ears, his pulse thudding with rising panic. He turned in a slow circle, a flashlight beam shaking across the walls. No immediate path, no cracks, just stone and silence. Max padded toward a darker corner, sniffing. Liam followed. Time meant everything now. The others might get help, but even if they did, it could take hours or longer. He leaned his head against the wall. Think. Liam, then something surfaced, distant, uncertain, a memory. Years ago, during a training drill, someone had mentioned it. A secondary shaft, carved out during the early mining days. Never used, marked unstable. Liam had never seen it with his own eyes, but it was somewhere deeper, somewhere behind the tourist paths, beneath the chamber with the spiral ledge. He glanced that way now. The tunnel dipped into utter blackness, cold and uncertain. He couldn't go in there blind. His flashlight was weak. The rocks were loose. One wrong step and he'd fall, or worse, cause another collapse. He stared down the tunnel, chest tight. It was their only shot. But not for him, not carrying gear, not wounded, but Max, Max could go. Liam turned to Max, who stood still as stone, watching him. His tail didn't wag, his ears didn't twitch. He simply looked as if he already knew, as if he'd known the second the rocks fell. "You're thinking what I'm thinking, huh?" Liam murmured, his throat thick. Max stepped forward once, then sat, eyes steady. Heart open, Liam crouched beside him, placing a trembling hand on the dog's neck. "It's too dangerous, buddy. I can't ask you to do that." Max didn't move, didn't blink, didn't look away. Somewhere between silence and heartbeat, the answer passed between them. He already knew the risk, and he didn't care. Liam felt the question rise like a wave of cold water. Could he send Max alone into the dark? Trust him to find a path through the winding, unstable maze back to the world to help? Could he survive the wait? Max could smell his way through places Liam couldn't reach. Move quietly, quickly, find a crevice, find a sound, and if he didn't... Liam looked down at his partner. Not just a dog, not just a rescue tool, but a soul tethered to his own. This wasn't just survival anymore. It was trust and love and letting go. Liam's fingers fumbled against the coiled rope he'd kept in his pack, standard issue for guides. He'd never used it for anything more than demonstrations. Never like this. His knuckles scraped on jagged stone as he worked, looping the rope around Max's broad chest, tugging just tight enough to stay, but not hurt. Max didn't flinch. He just stood there, perfectly still, tail lowered, ears forward. Sensing that this wasn't another game, Liam pulled the torn edge of a trail map from his pocket. In the dim glow of the fading flashlight, he scribbled a message with a shaking pen. "Tourists trapped. East shaft blocked. Sending Max. Please follow. Please hurry." He folded it and tucked it into a small zipper pouch on Max's collar, one he had stitched on years ago for ID tags and treats. But this wasn't a treat. This was a goodbye sealed in paper. He ran his hand down Max's fur, pausing at the dog's chest where the heart beat steady beneath. "This is crazy," Liam muttered, "but it's all we've got." At that moment, time bent backward. Liam could still see that first day, a younger version of himself, broken from loss, standing in front of a kennel where Max sat quietly, watching him without judgment. All the other dogs barked and jumped. Max didn't. He just waited. Liam didn't know what he was looking for at the time. But Max had known, had chosen him. They'd walked thousands of miles since then, through national parks and night patrols, through rainstorms and rescue drills. Max had never left his side, never once questioned him, never once failed him now. Liam had to do something Max had never asked of him, let him go. He knelt slowly, his voice barely above a whisper. "You remember the old trail markers, the scent of pine resin by the main vent shaft?" Max blinked once, then twice. Liam nodded. "I think you do. Just last spring, a boy had broken down in the middle of a tour, chest heaving, eyes wide, panic swallowing him whole." Max had approached gently, laying his head in the boy's lap without being told. He stayed there until the boy could breathe again. That was Max, intuitive, gentle, unafraid of other people's fear. But this wasn't a panic attack. This wasn't something Max could fix with presence alone. This time, he had to leave, go alone, in darkness, through a collapsing tunnel, and find people who didn't even know Liam was missing. And Liam couldn't protect him. He could only believe in him. The narrow shaft ahead of them was barely wide enough for a person to crawl through. Liam wouldn't fit with gear, but Max might. He guided Max gently to the edge, his hands trembling as he clipped the rope's tail through a loop in the harness, not to pull him back, just to hope someone would follow it. Liam knelt again, pressing his forehead to Max's ewe. "Got to go now, buddy," he whispered. "Go find help. Go bring them back. Go save us." His throat tightened as he felt Max's breath against his cheek. Still steady, still calm. "I love you," Liam choked. "More than you know." Then he gave the command, the only word Max needed. "Go." Max didn't hesitate. He looked back once, then slipped forward into the hole. The rope slid through, Liam's hands like a lifeline unraveling, until there was nothing left to hold. The last shuffle of paws faded. The scrape of claws against stone became a whisper, then nothing. Liam sat back against the wall, suddenly deafened by silence. There were no drips now, no echoes, only the thrum of his heart and the high ring of fear behind his ears. He stared into the black tunnel where Max had gone, eyes burning. Had he made the right call? Had he just sent his best friend into a maze of death? "Please, Max," he whispered. "Please, be okay." But no answer came, just darkness and cold, and the crushing weight of waiting. When the flashlight flickered its final breath, Liam didn't even curse. He just let it go. Darkness poured in like water, total, unforgiving. Time broke apart. It stretched hours into eternities, minutes into aching voids. Hunger came, then thirst, then the dull pain of muscles cramping. But worse was the silence. Worse was the mind, the tricks it played. Sometimes he thought he heard Max barking just down the tunnel. Sometimes he swore he saw movement in the black, but nothing ever came. He held his knees to his chest and whispered Max's name like a prayer. The darkness made space for memory. He saw the shelter's wire fence, the rain falling, the quiet gaze of a German shepherd who didn't bark. He remembered the first lick, gentle, cautious. The first walk, clumsy but patient. My first time Max barked at a snake and saved Liam's leg. He remembered sleepless nights, patrols through empty woods, the cold breath of winter on Max's fur as they watched sunrises together. He remembered being alone, until he wasn't, until Max, and now, without him again, the emptiness hurt worse than the hunger. Max moved low to the ground, body tight, nose sweeping side to side. The tunnel was unfamiliar, damp, claustrophobic, but his memory guided him, pine, moss, cold air. Somewhere ahead was light. He ducked under a sagging rock, then leaped over a fallen beam. His harness snagged once, but he backed up, twisted, freed himself. Behind him, the cave grumbled again. A tremor shook dust from the ceiling. He didn't pause. A pool of rising water blocked the path. Max stepped in, muscles tense, chest deep. He swam strong, ears flat, tail cutting through the current. The scent was there. Someone had come through once, long ago. He could smell it. He followed it. The tunnel split. One side led into blacker dark, the other into a wall of broken debris. Max tried the first to narrow. He backed up, claws slipping. He tested the rubble, loose, sharp, unstable. Then a draft, faint but real, air that smelled different. Not a cave, not rock. Outside, he pushed forward, paws sliding on wet stone. He climbed the jagged pile, higher nose forward, and then light. the faintest slit, the edge of dawn cutting through a crack. Max barked once, loud, sharp, and he waited, then barked again, and somewhere in the distance, far away, a human voice shouted back. Outside the ranger station, the world was turning to water. Rain slashed sideways, bending trees and flooding every trail. Radios crackled with static and silence. No signal, no answers. The search party had been grounded for hours. The last transmission from Liam's group had been nearly a day ago. The assumption was becoming a grim whisper on everyone's lips. Too long he had tourists with him. Even if they found shelter, the base commander sighed as he lowered his binoculars. The cave systems were vast. If the collapse had taken them, there might be nothing left to find. No guide, no dog, no chance. The radio buzzed, but no voice. Came just thunder and time slipping away, until the forest gave a sound none of them expected. A shout rang out from the outer post. There's someone, no, it's a dog. Out of the curtain of storm and mist, Max broke through. His fur was soaked and matted, streaked with blood and mud. His legs trembled, but his eyes burned with focus. He barreled into the clearing, barking frantically, turning in tight circles, and sprinting toward the forest line, then back again, demanding attention. The commander stepped forward, recognizing the markings on Max's harness. That's Liam's dog. Max barked louder, more urgent. He ran to the group, then back to the trees, his paws slipping in the wet earth. It wasn't random. It was a message, a plea. Max had come for help, and he wouldn't stop until they followed. A young officer lunged forward, grabbing Max by the harness. Easy, boy. You're hurt, but Max twisted free, growling low in frustration. He pawed at the ground, barked twice, and dashed a few feet into the woods before turning sharply and staring at them. They didn't understand. He whined, spun in a tight circle, then ran back toward them, barking so fiercely it pierced even the rain. He was trying to speak in the only way he knew. He doesn't want care. He wants to lead. They were wasting time, and every second Liam was slipping further from life, from the shadows of the cabin. An older woman stepped forward, one of the retired rangers who helped train Max in his early days. She stared for a long second, then whispered, "Max." He stopped barking. Recognition, a pause, a breath, check. His collar, she cried suddenly. He used to run messages in training. If Liam taught him anything, he left a note. The commander rushed over. Mud caked every inch of the harness. He dug into the side pouch with shaking hands and pulled out a soaked paper. Barely legible, but still intact. Trapped, collapse. East shaft blocked. Tourists are alive. And a final line scrawled in Liam's writing. Follow Max. The old ranger didn't wait. What are you all standing around for? She shouted, follow him. The command broke through the chaos like lightning. Gear thrown on, radios strapped. Headlamps snapped into place. Max didn't wait. As soon as he saw movement, he bolted into the trees. The rescuers followed, their boots slamming through puddles, slipping over moss-covered stone. Branches snapped, roots tangled. Visibility was nothing, but Max didn't falter. His pace never broke, not once. His body was weak, but his memory was sharper than ever. Every turn was precise, every scent recalled, every instinct lit by a single burning truth. Liam was waiting, and Max wasn't going to let him down. In the silence beneath the earth, Liam was folded into himself, his lips cracked, his limbs numb. His thoughts drifted in and out like breathless tides. He didn't know how long it had been. Only that Max was gone, and he hadn't come back. He wasn't angry, just tired. If this was the end, at least Max had a chance. At least someone might live. A whisper escaped his lips. Good boy. He tried to sit up, failed somewhere. A faint vibration tickled through the stone. Was it thunder? Footsteps? His imagination? He didn't know, but he held on to one thread of hope. Max, the rescue team skidded to a halt. The trail Max had taken ended at a collapsed bluff. Massive boulders piled, high like a barricade from the sky. They exchanged looks. No way around. But Max didn't hesitate. He barked at the stones, then turned sharply, darting to the right. The old volunteer frowned. There was a ranger path there. Years ago, no one uses it now. Max pawed at the ground, then charged forward into the undergrowth. With no better option, the team followed, ducking under low branches, hopping fallen logs, scraping through. Narrow passes. Max remembered, because Max had paid attention, because Max had never stopped watching, and now his memory was saving a life. The tunnel was barely passable, narrow, half-choked with debris. The rescuers pushed forward, one at a time. Max squeezed through first, and then he saw him. Liam slumped against a stone wall, barely breathing, face pale, lips parted. Max raced forward, skidding to a stop. He barked, loud and raw, then pressed his front paws against Liam's chest. Liam's eyes fluttered. Max licked his chin, whined, barked again. Footsteps pounded behind. Headlamps lit the chamber. Liam. Rescuers dropped to their knees, hands already at work, checking pulse, wrapping blankets, radioing for evac. Max stepped back only when the hands came, but never left Liam's side, not even for a second. The team moved with urgency. Rocks cleared, oxygen mask placed. They lifted Liam onto a stretcher, guiding him carefully through the twisting path Max had led them through. One rescuer stumbled, nearly dropping the pack. Max barked once, sharp, corrective, like a drill instructor. They smiled. "We hear you, boy." When they emerged into the stormlight, cheers erupted. But Max stayed silent. His eyes never left Liam's face, as the helicopter blades roared and medics swarmed. Max climbed onto the stretcher, curled beside Liam's legs, and rested his head gently on his chest. He had done his job. Now he would wait until his best friend opened his eyes again. Liam's eyelids fluttered open to a harsh chorus of beeping machines. His body felt heavy, every breath shallow and uneven. The sterile scent of antiseptic filled the air. Slowly, he became aware of a pair of warm eyes fixed on him steady. Calm, unwavering. Max's head rested gently on the edge of the hospital bed, his tail wagging softly. A quiet pulse of life beside Liam's fragile form. Liam tried to speak, but could only manage a croak. Max responded with a soft whine, nuzzling. His hand, grounding him in a world that felt both distant and terrifying. At that moment, Liam realized he was not alone. The dog who had fought through dark tunnels and storms to find him was right there waiting, watching, a guardian tethered to his very soul. Outside the hospital room, news cameras flashed and reporters whispered about the heroic dog who had saved a life. Max's picture was everywhere, papers, broadcasts, social media feeds, but none of that mattered to Liam. To him, Max had always been more than a story. He was family, a silent companion who had seen his fears, his loneliness, and never once turned away. Liam's mind traveled back to their first day together at the shelter. The uncertain, scared dog who had become his steadfast shadow. The countless quiet nights and wordless moments that had woven their hearts into an unbreakable bond. Max was a hero. Not because the world said so, but because Liam had lived it every day. Days later, Liam visited the survivors, the tourists, who had been trapped in the collapse alongside him. Their faces lit up with relief and gratitude. "I owe my life to Max," one woman said, tears streaming as she hugged the dog. "He's more than a dog," another man added. "He's a guardian angel." Max basked quietly in their affection, leaning into every touch, accepting the thanks with the gentle dignity of one who had done what he must. Liam watched, heart full. It was Max they celebrated, not him, and yet Max's loyalty had always been to Liam alone, the soul who never stopped believing in him. The community gathered in a sunlit park, applause rising as Max was awarded a medal for bravery. Children cheered, and photographers snapped pictures of the mud-streaked dog who had become a symbol of hope. But Max's attention never strayed far from Liam. Wherever Liam moved, Max sat beside him, quiet, patient, his eyes reflecting a deep contentment that needed no applause. Liam reached down to scratch behind Max's ears. "You're the real hero, Max." The crowd might see a medal, but Liam saw the years of silent sacrifice, the trust forged in tunnels and storms, a love that no honor could ever fully capture. As Liam's body healed, his mind slowly began to mend from the trauma of the collapse. But more than anything, he reflected on how Max had pulled him from a dark place before the accident. Liam had felt isolated, a man untethered from hope, haunted by the solitude that came with his job and past. But Max's presence had been a constant lifeline, steady and unwavering. Sometimes, Liam thought, all it takes is one soul who refuses to leave your side. In the quiet moments, when pain and fear crept in, Max was there reminding him that love saves lives. Liam wasn't alone anymore. He never had been. Inspired by Max's courage and loyalty, Liam found a new purpose. He decided to dedicate himself to training rescue dogs, giving them the chance Max once had. Every dog was a story waiting to be told, a soul yearning to find its person. Liam knew the power of second chances. He had lived it, breathed it. Through his work, he would help other lost souls find meaning and connection, just as Max had given him a reason to keep fighting. Together, man and dog would become a beacon of hope for those still waiting to be found. Liam and Max worked side by side with local shelters and volunteers. Their story traveled far, inspiring others to open their hearts and homes to abandoned dogs. Each new rescue was a chapter in a larger tale, a testament to the bond that can grow between human and animal, healing wounds no words ever could. From one rescue came many a chain of love that would never break. Liam's footsteps crunched softly over the familiar earth, the same trail winding near the cave where it all began. The air was calm now, no longer thick with dust or fear, but fresh with the promise of new beginnings. Max walked steadily. By his side, his fur brushed gently by the breeze, tail wagging in quiet contentment. For the first time in a long while, silence was not empty, it was filled with peace. Liam glanced down at Max and smiled, voice low but clear in the stillness. "Not all heroes wear capes," he said softly. "Sometimes they wear fur, have loyal eyes, and move with silent strength." Max looked up, as if understanding every word, his steady gaze reminding Liam that courage often whispers rather than shouts. In that quiet moment, a truth settled deep inside Liam's heart. Max had been far more than a companion through the darkness. He had been a guardian, guiding him when hope faltered, a steady presence when the world crumbled. Liam realized he wasn't alone, not really. Max was family, the family he never knew he needed but couldn't live without, and in that realization, the loneliness that once haunted him began to fade. Liam reached down to stroke Max's head, his voice thick with emotion. In trusting you, I didn't just survive the cave, I found something far greater. He paused, eyes glistening. I found purpose. I found love that doesn't need words, a bond strong enough to save two lives. Max leaned into his hand, silent but powerful proof that sometimes the deepest rescue is the one between two hearts who refuse to let go, and together they would face whatever came next.